Welcome, everybody. I'm Rick DiClemente to Astrology Unplugged, and my company is called Star Self. My website is starself.com, and on starself.com, you can find the links. Hi, Karen. You can find the links to join us each week at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. So, this, of course, you're seeing replayed on YouTube, but if you want to join us on Thursday nights at 8, you can go through that link. Now, I think I will. Karen, I did not do your chart twice, did I? In the past 3 weeks, I've gone through everybody once and half the people a second time, their own chart. And I don't think I've gone through Karen, so we'll go through you at least once. I'm going to start with Sandy Esch's chart. A long time ago, I did a chart of a pretty famous author named William Meader, who's from Pennsylvania and also from California. He's very popular in this area. He is a very fine esoteric astrologer. So where I leave off on the earth plane, this guy takes you onto the soul plane. He is heavy into the works of Alice Bailey. If you've ever studied her, then good luck, because that's tough stuff. Anyhow, he's very popular in this area. He comes back here to speak all the time. And when I opened his chart up and I saw 6 planets in Leo, I was just stunned. And then a few days later, I did this woman's chart, who's on your screen listed as Sandy E. Who's Sandy Esch, and this is the chart I saw. And there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 planets in Leo. Now, it's very typical for the astrologer's mind to take something like this and go, ego, 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 nothing but ego. And I could tell you from knowing her for at least 10 years now, that she's nothing but. Now, what changes all that excessive need for self-spotlight? You can just see it. You can sense it looking at her. She shines. She shines that Leo essence. This gets transmuted because largely of the Neptune at the midheaven. She has been a long-time Course in Miracles teacher. What, 20, 30 years, right?
Yeah.
So you should know it by now. So I've often conferred with her. She's taught me an awful lot about that. Also, when you have 6 planets in Leo like this, you have to zoom in on the degrees. What's really close here? The Jupiter-Venus is close. The Sun-Mars is close. So what you have is 3 pairs, really. The Pluto-Mercury, making your very Scorpionic. The Mars, the Sun, making your very Aries-like. The Jupiter-Venus, making your very Sagittarian-like. Put it all in the 8th house. She's very Scorpionic. And there's nothing you could do to get past the Leo. So what do you do with something like this? You don't just throw it away. You have to look closely at what does it mean. You could put 50 astrologers in one room and they would never get the same take on this chart because it's just too complex, it's too strong. When you have a heavy 8th house, John, when you have a very heavy 8th house, the 8th house is the opposite of the 2nd house. My stuff, our stuff. 2nd house, my stuff. 8th house, our stuff. There's too much focus on other people's money. It is true, it does deal a lot with other people's money, but that's not the issue. The 8th house is, the 2nd house is my stuff, my values. The 8th house is, what are my values like when I'm with other people? So for Leo, and Leos are typically not worried about how they mix with others. They're not concerned about how they mix with others. They're mainly concerned with I put this out there and let me get a reflection back of how well I'm doing. The main function of a Leo is to go get confidence, to grow in confidence. And this is why the main challenge for Leos is, my first half of my life, I get myself evaluation from other people, validation. In my work, I work towards getting validation from myself. So when the Leo, if they get to that point and they make that shift and they start validating themselves, then look out, they're very, very powerful. Okay, also the 8th house is the house of the occult. It's the house of going down dark alleys, going into the depths of something, the psychologist, and I think that is definitely where she gets the ease with which she studies all these deeper esoteric sciences. The Neptune sitting at the top of the chart is the main calling. It's the calling towards God, usually. Not all people can do it, but it's what calls you. You could say it's a career, the 10th house cusp, but it's mainly a calling towards God or towards your God's mission. So we see when you mix her chart together, you've got this calling towards God, you've got this very shiny, phenomenal solar energy pouring out of the 8th house. And when I told you about my friend William Meter, I think they're born on the same day. As a matter of fact, William Meter's, yeah, they're not the same day. William Meter's moon goes up to Virgo. So about 2 days later, the moon is in Virgo. 3 days later, the moon is in Virgo. All these are the same, but they're all in the 8th house. So her chart is very much like him. Did you ever meet him, Sandy?
Yeah.
He's really, really, really bright, huh? How did you two get along?
Both the first occasion I met him was at a talk he was giving down in Wheeling. And so I didn't really get to speak with him a whole lot. And the second time I had a reading with him and he was jammed up with people. So I really didn't get to talk to him much that time either.
I met him in Wheeling too, because when he comes here, he stations in Wheeling and in Pittsburgh, and he gave me a reading because he did my esoteric, which I don't know much about, and I did his Western astrology, and I was getting a reading from him on the day of my Chiron return. And he said, "You're having a Chiron return today." I said, "What's a Chiron?" "I don't know." And he explained it to me, and boy, that was eventful. Anyhow, he's got a book out. I can't remember the name of it. Do you remember it? Anyhow, William Meter, M-E-A-D-E-R. You may want to look him up. He's extremely bright on esoteric Alice Bailey type stuff. So
he's mostly out of California, correct?
Yeah, he mainly works out of California now. Now, let me tell you what happens with a chart like this. You've been in picnic land for a while, lady. You've been in picnic land for a while, lady.
Oh, really?
I don't mean it's been a breeze, but I mean there's not been much happening with fixed signs. So you had better fasten your seatbelt for May the 15th. I think it is May 15th. Yes. Next year, because on May 15th, Uranus is going to cross out of Aries. It's been down here all this time. And on the 15th of May, it's going to go into Taurus and send its shockwaves through all fixed signs. Everybody's fixed signs. Scorpio, Aquarius, all the Leo stuff, all the Taurus. Now, you're lucky for two reasons. One, fixed signs are not very mutable. They're not very conductive. So the energy will start traveling through fixed signs, but it might be quite a while till you feel it. Secondly, you don't have any seats by the doorway. You don't have any planets at 0, 1, 2. People with planets at 0, 1, 2, they're the ones sitting by the doorway, and the door opens, boom, and they get hit real hard. But nevertheless, watch this. Watch how this works. To learn more about your chart, we take it and we use a different rising type or different house system. And now when we like Karen, and now when we look at your chart with putting your sun on the first, see what happens? We're looking at the chart through the sun, putting it on the first house. Now, Uranus is coming to you from the top. This is not done nearly enough. This is one of the main tools in astrology that's totally overlooked by people. In other words, Uranus is going to start to square all Leos from the solar midheaven. If you were to put Aquarius here, it's going to hit the Aquarius from the solar nadir. So what this means, put it together very basically. Uranus, shake up, brand new, shocking start to what? To your career. So as Uranus spends 7 years, pretty much like clockwork, as it spends 7 years in this area, from 2018 to 2025, it's going to hit boom, 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 one at a time. And what Uranus is going to do, first of all, we ask ourselves, how are you going to deal with Uranus with all that fixedness? Well, I don't think you're going to have any problem at all because you're able to survive the oven of the zodiac, which is the 8th house. And I think the reason you're flexible, even with a Saturn in Scorpio, the reason you're flexible is because you're born with that Neptune right at that midheaven. So you're pretty darn flexible. So what's going to happen is you're going to come out of your fixedness and you're going to start feeling ready to take your show on the road. I don't know what it means, but you're going to have at least 2.5 years before it's going to become critical, because it's going to take a couple years till it gets to 13 degrees and start hitting your first planet, Jupiter. So what that means is you're going to feel like, hey, the kids are growing up. I'm not ready to retire. I want to do something socially because it's coming to you from the midheaven. If you're Aquarius, it's coming to you from the bottom. So it's coming to you from your home life, wanting to get your nest changed. If you are Scorpio, it's coming from your 7th house. So this is one of the main things that an astrologer must do, and it's overlooked all the time because astrologers like to make things more complicated than they are. So I ask you, even though we're on the eve of this, and this is no happenstance that you're getting this read, I ask you, do you feel something sneaking up on you that you're getting ready to do? Oh, look at that. Look at that grin burst out there. Talk to us. Let me go ahead. You're on live.
Okay. Well, I just sent you an email this afternoon. I don't know if you had a chance to read it or not.
I didn't.
Well, I was saying in my email to you that I felt a change come through. I could sort of feel it coming on. I knew it was going to be sort of an intense emotional thing, but I knew that it was just a wave I would have to ride through, so to speak. And the way it came about is I actually ended up quitting my job, which wasn't a shock. okay, it was something that was coming on. It was something I could see that eventually I was going to have to do it. And then today the energy just was there, and it just all came about so smoothly, actually. I wouldn't have expected quitting a job to be so easy in a way.
Was it about 10 days ago?
I know I just quit today.
Okay, let me point to something. Let me fix something here. Here's the reason it was easy. Hold on one second. I got to get the different house system back to normal. I'm surprised it wasn't 10 days ago. Okay.
Well, it almost was.
Okay, let's see. Here we go. Here's why I said that, Sandy. The recent lunation that we just had, I guess somewhere around the 18th, I can't remember, of October, was at 25 degrees. Uranus is sitting at 25 right here. And you see what it's doing? This point of your chart is extremely, extremely sensitive. And beside the fact that it's Neptune, which is even more sensitive, but this entire line is where am I from, where am I going, where am I coming from, where am I headed, what is my calling? And the Uranus has been in this area for at least 2 years now in this area, setting up this time period. And then along came a spider. And along came in October, the sun and moon just crossed here, triggering that Uranus here. So the Uranus wasn't going anywhere, and the sun and moon just triggered that, and that's the reason it was so effortless, was because Neptune was involved. But I tell you what, and it's also because, don't take it for granted, you're very God-oriented. You're very comfortable with listening to that inner voice. That's what this is. And I would not be surprised at all if you feel guided towards some new spiritual direction. So tell us about it. Once I unmute you. Here we go.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mute when I quit talking because of other household noise.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, I agree with you that I do feel that this is a guidance of some sort. And I actually felt when I took the job just 3 months ago, that it was also sort of a stepping stone type of thing also. It wasn't a job I normally would think of taking. It was a job in a hotel. I have no hotel experience, and they gave me a job as a front desk manager. I had no idea what a front desk manager does other than having dealt with them when I've traveled myself. And seeing how my background, like you have said, is more into the assistance to others, to understanding what's going on with others so that I can be of assistance. I was seeing how my perspective on life could be brought to such an industry, not knowing if I was really going to fit in or not. The whole experience for these past 3 months, coming that I came at it as a learner and not as someone needing a job, I was looking at it as an opportunity to see what the hotel business was all about and to see where I might be headed in it because I have a lot of friends in the business.
But you did a lot of research, right? Research work at Pitt?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, well, that's your 8th house. So what I'm gathering here is you did all the research work, which was definitely necessary, and this tidbit, this short period with the hotels, taught you something else. It's like a stepping stone because you're going to come out. And this is why what you have to do when you're an astrologer, you have to twist this chart in your mind. So at the same time that this Neptune on the 10th house cusp in the natal chart is being activated, indicating a new spiritual direction, at the same time, we put all this stuff over on the 1st house, and we see that Uranus is squaring all that stuff from the top of the chart. So both symbols are about getting ready to go out. You know what this is kind of like, in my experience? This is kind of like Jesus coming to you and touching you and saying, I know you love your family. Say goodbye. You love them. You always will. But you got to come with me because your next stage has a higher master. That's what I see this as. What do you think?
Well, okay, let me say that's a little hard to hear. I'm sorry to say, but
What's hard about it?
Well, I'm also very family orientated, you know.
I don't think it means you got to lose anything, but I think when Jesus comes to talk to you personally, you change your tune. That's all.
Oh, okay. Well, I can go there. I mean, something's going on. I don't know exactly. That's why I wrote to you this afternoon. Something has to be sort of coming in.
All right, well, let's you and I talk about this more personally offline, because it's going to take a lot of talk. It's going to get real personal. How about we do that?
All right.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to get back to everybody else now that have been patiently waiting. Thank you. And I want to dig deeper into your harmonics because I can definitely say what's happening is you're being called for something that you've not been quite ready for, almost. But I think it's going to be really big. And I also happen to notice that you're a female, and the females are taking over the planet, thank God. And you're here to lead some of the females. Some of the feminine energy.
All right, boy.
Thank you. Okay, Mark. Mark up next on the chopping block. Where's Mark? There he is over there. There's good old Mark. Let's get him up here. And then we got Marta with us. Marta, did I get back to your chart a second time?
No.
Okay, I'm going to add you to the list. And we're just going to, you're on the list of about 8 people. I'm going to get to you when I can. Yes, Erica, certainly. What's your question? I've unmuted you. You're on the air.
I just quickly wanted to know why did you take Sandy's 8th house and put it in the 1st house again? What was that?
Anything you want to study.
Oh, I see.
You are a jeweler, and when I give you a diamond, when I give you an emerald, you put it on the 1st house, not because of standard houses, but because the zodiac is, as I said in the book, the zodiac is your prism. You see everything through the eyes of the 1st house.
Okay.
So you've seen these orange cutters. You put an orange cutter and you smack it down on the orange and you get 8 sections. That's what the zodiac does, only in 12. So everything else remains true. The natal houses remain true. It's another way of looking that's more basic. Through the sun means through the self. So anytime I see a square on somebody, I automatically know, is it coming from the midheaven? Is it coming from the nadir? Always put whatever you're examining on the 1st house. it'll give you a clue of how to start your interpretation, because that interpretation will be more accurate than the one we call the houses. Houses are very overrated in astrology, and they catch people unawares if they're beginners, because we put all this mysterious stuff on what's going on in the houses. The houses are true and they're valid, but the solar houses are much more important. Okay, I want to get on with Mark's chart. Elke, your question?
I just quickly wanted to know, how do you put the sun on the first house? Where is the function in solar fire? Does it tell you how to do that? Like,
Right
is
here,
there a...
I'll show you right here. Yeah. You've got a chart in front of you. Quit that chart down here. Quit. Go over here. Go over here to your edit and replace. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you go to your house systems. And you can pick all these different house systems, or you can pick sun on first.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
And the sunrise chart, how do I do a sunrise chart if it's...
There's a 0 Aries chart. Here's the sun on first. Here's the solar sign.
Oh, I can't see that, but that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
None of them are a sunrise chart. Okay?
Yeah, how do you know that? Because the sun rises at different times during the year.
There is no sunrise chart. Okay? You can have the natal chart, which is the real ascendant. You can have 0 Aries for everybody, or you could have, for you, 0 Cancer. In other words, you could have 12 Cancer, or you could have 0 Cancer as your rising sign. One is called solar sign. One is called whole signs. So go experiment with them. But what I'm trying to say to you very simply, you're walking down the street and you think, oh, Mars is squaring my sun today. Then you stop, what house is Mars in? Before you go there, mentally, put your sun, or whatever Mars is squaring, put your sun on the imaginary first house, and Mars will be squaring from the bottom or from the top. Is it coming to me from the home? Is it coming to me from work? All aspects, all of them. All oppositions of every type have to do with 7th house. All of them. All oppositions, because the target planet is here and the active planet is in the 7th house.
Okay.
In addition to your natal planets. In addition to your natal houses. So you should do that, and that will help you greatly get a grasp on your translation. Mark, I apologize, and let me come back to you. And here we go, Mark. All right. You'll get the point after you do it for a while. Mark is right here. Okay, let me see you get the chart on the screen. Now, Mark, I had been around once on your chart, and here we go twice. All right. All right, you see the sun is immediately, we don't even need to go very far. Immediately, we see the sun is along the 25th degree cardinal. Just like I told you, you have to memorize fixed. You got to memorize cardinal. 25 Aries, 25 Libra, 25 Cancer, 25 Capricorn. So even though Uranus has been sitting up here, the new moon was just down here, so this axis has just been lit up. So since it's the sun, and since it's Uranus at the top of the chart, in the natal chart, I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to stop right there. This is so critical because it's on his main planet, the sun. Its opposite is Neptune. It's the sun and moon triggering Uranus. So that's why three to 4 weeks ago, I started to talk to Mark about, Mark, are you starting to feel more like expressing yourself? Because you can see in Mark's chart, it's more of a laid back, let me be behind the scenes, a little bit quieter, very non-Aries-like. But when the sun gets hit, The sun is your Leo part. The sun wants to flare. It wants to talk. It wants to express himself. And Mark disagreed with me right away. Then he said, you know what, Rick, I am starting to do that. I'm starting to become more comfortable with expressing myself. Go ahead, Mark. Yeah, in terms of, is that true? Is that false? Clarify it.
Well, I think I would describe it this way, Rick. Having gone the last year through a quiet period, based on my personality, is probably a more active period, but it would still be considered quiet by most people. So
that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's fine. With the sun at the midheaven, the sun at the midheaven, meaning you're born around noon, and Uranus has been going back and forth, so this is not news to you. This has been going on a while. That's what's so nice about the outer planets. They give us time. They warn us. What's important now, Mark, is not that you express yourself. That's secondary. Here's what's primary about Uranus. It always liberates. It always liberates. You get more elbow room. And just like Fred Rogers said, there's no one like you, and you get a chance, a better opportunity to express what Mark thinks. Now, how does that look?
I think it's. I think most of that stuff's happening in the 10th house, and career-wise. So it's not necessarily that new work has materialized, but there are some opportunities unfolding that feel somewhat liberating. So that can lead to more freedom of expression. So don't know where that goes long term. We'll have to see.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Let me go back here. Okay, now there's no way that you're going to figure this out clearly because the sun is opposite Neptune. And it's opposite Neptune square to Uranus is very tight. Sun, Venus, Neptune, T squared to Uranus in Leo. So I don't know what this is about, but this is clearly about, and you see this all the time in 12th harmonic past life charts, this battle, this mixing of energies, this conflict, whatever you want to call it, between being ego and being non-ego. And that's the story of this century anyway. If the 21st century is anything, it's this leaving behind the mea culpa. Don't tell me I gotta shut up. Don't tell me God only lets people through the gates that are quiet. This is a myth. This is a medieval mindset for keeping us all pushed down. So I don't care what's happening on the outside, Mark. This is happening on the inside. So we don't know what's going on, but we could tell exactly in your chart there's this ping pong going on between being self and expression and being quiet and held back. This whole issue is going back and forth, and we need to look at the past life 12th harmonic to see where this comes from, which is what we'll do now. So I will call up the 12th. Let you see that. Okay, now we look at Mark's history of his past lives. Look at how self-filled he is. He's how confident he has been. Sun, Moon, Venus, Pluto. These are very, very powerful planets. He's able to stand up because Aquarian energy is so self-fulfilled. It's so self-sustaining. You're able to stand up and tell people how it is with great knowledge and great confidence. Well, what do we see here? We see Neptune is opposite the Mercury Chiron. So Neptune's still at play, and Neptune is very quiet, very much doing God's will, very much introspective. So we see in the past lifetime that even with all this power up here, this shush, this is a great big shush, is triggering itself through the T-square to Jupiter and Capricorn. Well, isn't that complicated? Because now you got all this energy sending itself through Jupiter in that very dark 8th house to the restrictive sign of Capricorn. So we see that this theme in this chart of being very outspoken, being very confident, is still at an interplay, at a standoff with this shush energy. And the shush energy is not so much about being quiet. The shush energy is believing that God's out there and I'm over here. And I told you all that I'm going to stop you right there for a second. But I was sent through a God experience about 12 years ago where a friend of mine who's so powerful with Reiki, he was curing a headache of mine. And I left his house and I felt better. And on the way home, I had a God experience. And now that I think back on it, and it lasted 3 days, what I experienced was a great big Rick. There was just this great big, peaceful, all-knowing, loving Rick that was there and present. And my normal Rick was over here watching it. And I was shocked. But at least I had enough knowledge to identify what it was. So that's what I'm saying to you. That's what Uranus does. It activates the higher self. That's what it does. It's the higher self. This is why the Aquarians, you know, are walking around not in a cloud, but they're up above the clouds. Because they're just always trying to link their mind with the collective mind. And when you're doing that, it's really hard to communicate with the muggles down on the earth. So that's what's happening tomorrow in this lifetime. So you see in the past life, you were very advanced mentally, very, very advanced. But you still had this thing going on, trying to struggle through, I can say these things as long as they're God's thought, not realizing they're also your thoughts. So that's the dynamic in your chart, is realizing they're one and the same, which is the heart. Is it not, Sandy Esch? It's the heart. Talk to us, Sandy. Is it not the heart of the Course in Miracles?
The heart of the Course in Miracles is to know the truth of yourself as one with all, and that is one with God.
Exactly. And one of the main statements that they rub in your face in that book is no thought leaves its source, right?
That's right.
No thought leaves its source. And that's hard for us arrogant human beings to think the source of all our thoughts is this little gray matter up here. Every thought you've ever had, every thought is God thinking. On top of it, we lay down all the Rick's BS and all the Mark's BS. We put stuff on top of it, and we muddy the waters. That's why when I had that God experience, I told my girlfriend, listen closely to what I'm saying these few days, because I know the weeds are going to grow. I'm going to start getting fuzzy again. I'm going to start getting Rick's issues involved. Please memorize what I'm saying. And just like I thought, 3 days later, it was completely gone. So since then, I've learned not to belittle Reiki in any way. Now, Mark, I'm going to move on. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, thank you, Rick.
Well, you are certainly very welcome, and I am very excited to bring that to you. Okay, next on the list is our firebug. Susan, you're going to have to behave. Susan F., I'm unmuting you. I'm trying to unmute you. There. Okay, there she is. Susan F. out in California, IA. Now, We went through you once. Susan is a Virgo. Susan F. Out near Sacramento. It's
No, I'm outside of San Francisco.
San Francisco. Okay, all right. Aren't you glad you're not a Dodger fan after last night?
Listen, if you're a Giants fan, you hate the Dodgers.
I know, but it was a tremendous game. It was.
I haven't watched them. I mean, I'd like to see them win, but
last night, 2 runs in the ninth, 2 runs in the 10th, 2 runs in the bottom of the 10th, 2 runs in the top of the 11th. They just kept battling. Anyhow,
the Dodgers and the Giants hate each other.
that's okay. We hate the Dodgers too because they got all the money. Okay, let's get Susan up here. Susan F. All right. As we have talked, similar to Karen's chart, we have the great Virgo-Leo theme. Okay, we had a Virgo-Leo theme going on. We got a lot of moon going on. So what's really happening? The first question we ask, since we're examining it now, is what did the recent new moon do to you? The new moon was right here. So it lit up in the first house where Uranus has been sitting. Uranus has been sitting. Now Uranus is at 25 degrees. 25 degrees. So for the past 5.5 years, Uranus has been, the past 5 years, Uranus has been in your 7th house. So what that means in the past 5 years, Uranus has been trying to get you to feel like, I'm ready to party again. I'm ready to meet new people. And what ends up happening that's very common is you end up hanging out with a lot of people different in age, especially younger. So is that
you
true?
can say that again.
All right. Okay. Now that's boiling and that's moving and that's moving. And then along comes the new moon about a week or 10 days ago, and it hits it and it says to you, what's the fuss for? You know, what's the fuss? This is what I want to do. Can't the woman do what she wants to do? Let her do what she wants to do. She wants to come to life again, right? Mm-hmm. We always got to get past the critic. The critic. Where's the critic, right? Here's the critic right here. Oh, she lets out a big sigh.
I forgot I was unmuted. I've had a crazy week. I've met somebody.
Ah, well, we don't have to talk about it on YouTube, but you can if you want to. But you see, let's clear up this myth about Virgo. Okay? First of all, Virgo energy is really hard. You don't want to take a Virgo as a going with you while you're on the date. You don't want them with you because they're just uptight. But remember, Virgo's a very pure sign. It's very misunderstood. We don't always have to look at Virgo as being uptight and sergeant-like. But to the native who has the energies, it feels that way. Do you constantly feel like you got to get past the sergeant?
No, not really. I'm not as sergeant-y as I used to be at all. Okay. I think I've mellowed probably the past 10 years at least.
Wonderful. Especially
my house is a mess right now, and I could care less.
Oh, we're all looking. We're taking notes, Susan. Oh, boy. I was looking for the word chaperone. Anyhow, so you met somebody. What age would this person be?
He's 47, but I don't know his birthday yet.
That's okay.
But I've been working with him all week, and there's this crazy energy between us.
What sign is he?
I don't know his birthday. I didn't ask him.
Well, you're really flying loose now.
Oh, my God. It's like I haven't felt like this in a long time. Let's just put
that. Okay, well, I don't have anything to say. You know, I would really be interested to see if he's a Libra or an Aquarian. But
I'll find out tomorrow. I'll ask him tomorrow.
the feeling is he's here to teach you that you're cool the way you are,
Mm-hmm.
right? If so, then it's a Uranian, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But that's the main thing that's happening in your chart. And it's not so that you could paint the town red. It's so that you could start allowing the real Susan out.
That's what I feel is coming.
Yeah. That's why people go nutty at 63, and they go nutty at 21, and they go nutty at 42. It's the Uranus main.
I feel like I'm 15 today.
Good, good, good.
And here's Lily butting in.
Now, I'm going to move on, but I want to ask you something. When you let yourself go, I don't mean slovenly.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Be free. I think the difficulty in the chart is that moon at the top of the chart.
Yeah.
That moon starts to send you unsafety messages. We're not going to be safe. We're not going to be safe. You get out on that limb. Look how far you're getting from the
Right.
coast. Okay? Okay.
Right.
Let me ask you a question. So I will remind you how strong that moon is. That moon is always looking for safety, and it's 8 degrees away. So I ask you a simple question. Those whisperings that moon gives you about being overly cautious, how accurate is that moon?
Oh, I don't know. I never really thought about it. Usually when I hear it, I mean, of late or, the past 5 or 10 years, I'm like, that's enough, because I know I know what my ego is, and I know what my intuition is.
Okay, so you're listening less and less to the moon?
Probably, yes. If the moon is your ego, yes.
No, the moon is not the ego like the sun. The moon is this neurotic safety message.
Yes.
You better put your rubbers on. You better put your umbrella on. You better get back in the car. You better not say anything. Blah, 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 blah. Fear messages.
Right. No. Well, maybe, I don't know when they stop, but yeah, no, I'm not listening to them.
Okay, that's wonderful. And I think that you should thank goodness that it's 8 degrees away. That moon were any closer, it'd be a lot more difficult. Thank you, Susan. I'm going to move on.
All right. Thank you, Rick.
Waldo. You got a new nickname. We all found Waldo. All right, you got it. You gave me permission, and that's ours to it. Waldo, where's Waldo? There's Waldo. Okay. Waldo, Jupiter, all the 5 planets in Gemini. That's your past life chart. Here's a natal chart. We talked a little bit before the show. Here you go, Waldemar, Waldo. You got the Jupiter Chiron, 4 and 6. A tremendous astrologer's chart with Chiron 6, 5, and 5 and 7. Now remember, through 1952 to 89, 52 to 89, 37 years, everybody had Uranus opposite Chiron. So that's the whole generation, and that stands for alternate healing methods. Alternate healing methods, in which you can see very clearly in that subgeneration. I see a face there, Sandy. I'm sure I've met him before. Okay, back on one of those roller skating things, skateboarding things. Oh my God, that's when I knew you were all nuts. Sandy used to have a skateboarding. What did you call it? Facility?
It was called Pipe Skate Park. It was a recreational facility.
Indoors.
Indoors, outdoors, yeah.
I wonder how many boxes of Band-Aids you went through.
Actually, the kids did great. you know.
Their indoor skate facility was like 100 yards long. It was amazing. Anyhow, let me get back to the subject. That was wild. Waldo, you can see that there's tremendous, I got to get you on my screen. Yeah, there's tremendous emphasis on the sun and the Mercury because it's T-square. And so what do you get when you get an exaggerated sun in Sag and with an exaggerated Mercury in Sag? These people like to speak the truth, period. Don't you try to tempt me with not speaking the truth, because I'm going to speak the truth. Put on top of it a moon in Sag, and then you got a Venus, Neptune, and Scorpio. This person's going to speak the truth. You cannot stand being near people who don't. True or false?
True.
Okay, what does that do to you when you try to find a job, that tendency?
When I'm trying to find a job,
When you're so one-sided towards the truth, and you know, face it, when you get a job, you have to kind of swallow things and you can't always speak your truth. What does that do with you when you're getting interviewed and you're known for being so bluntly honest?
well, I think I got that side of that I could go behind that, you know. I always done good in my jobs. I always get along with everybody, but I always feel like I don't like the higher.
The games you got to play with the higher ups.
I play the game, but I usually have my own mentality that I'm gonna move on. You know, if I don't feel like respected, you know, I move on. I come to the conclusion that people like me need to work alone and do a lot of work using all the skills that I can, you know, because if not, I'm gonna be in a situation that I feel trapped, you know. I feel like I did that for many years, being in the service, you know, where you have.
Let's take a look at your past life, which is on the screen now. Look at this, Gemini. You've got this long history of speaking out, also being very versatile. Geminian, lots of information exchanging with people. Information exchanging. Okay, the higher the better. Okay, very, very strong. With Chiron there too, very, very strong. Even though it's Taurus ruled. Okay, what do we see with this? Well, we got a Mars opposition. Look closely now. Look closely, 4 degrees. Go right over to the 4th degree, and we end up right between Uranus and the Sun. This is very volatile. This is very strong, and you send all your energy to a very powerful Venus in Virgo. This is extremely strong. Let me show you. Okay. So we got to ask ourselves, what is the purpose of Venus in Virgo? We're looking at him in between lives. He's about to take another lifetime. We're rubbing our chin. We're reviewing his past lives. We say, Waldo, you've had this tremendous experience at, I've got a feeling about this already. You've got this tremendous history of expressing information and doing it very directly, but you've always channeled it in a very careful way. Venus in Virgo. You've always made sure you said the right words with the right elucidation and punctuation. In other words, you've always said what you had to say very carefully, because you want to make sure it is delivered and people do not misunderstand you. Well, what's happening now, since Neptune's been over here, is Neptune is saying, Quit worrying about the delivery. Just blab it out. Just say what you got to say, because by trying to be so exacting, you're holding back too much power that you have and you are privy to. Just let it out, because people are going to get the message. And the reason people like you at work and hire you at work and you get along fine at work is they can just sense that you're a good person and don't worry about it. That's why people love generally being around Sagittarians. So along comes this new moon, 25 Libra. Right on that old moon. Okay. So what did you do studying this chart? Why did you pick this birth chart? Okay, remember it was all going through Venus and Virgo? Let's stop here for a minute and ask, do you think that the past life makes sense?
Yes.
When you took this lifetime, how do you think you got that to stay in play? And how do you think you chose to oppose it?
Well, I believe that looking at the harmonic chart, now I can figure out why I could pick up things so fast. But now in this lifetime, I needed to work with the inside, with the scorpionic energy, and helping people through that experience that I had went through all my life. You know, I experienced the various Plutonian energy, and now I can mix both, like the information, the knowledge with the Gemini. Very easy to move from.
What I'm sensing, Waldo, is this very simply. I think you've gotten to the point in this lifetime. The Virgo was there because you need a tough earth sign to contain and control and regulate all that energy. I mean, that Gemini stuff could just go wild like fireworks. And Sag also. But you contained it, you professionalized it, and now you're at the point where you're letting it go. And I think that's symbolic of that moon being hit in that 12th harmonic. What I'm saying now is in this lifetime, at this point in time, you can now just let it rip, because you can now trust yourself. You can now trust yourself. Let it go. And when you trust yourself, you're trusting God. And when you trust in God, you're trusting yourself. And there's no way around that. They're one and the same. And you cannot fall prey to this judgment. Why did it take me so long? Because it did. Because it did. And you are here, and thank God Almighty, and that's just wonderful. Now, what do you got to say about that?
I'm glad that I found you guys. And I also think that what you talk about Venus in my chart, my old chart, the Virgo, because I have a lot of Virgos in my life. Like I've been surrounded by Virgos most of the time, you know, like in my two brothers, my daughter. I mean, mentioning Virgos is all over, because I'm very, you know, look at that. I was very perfectionist at one part of my life, and that showed a lot of uneasy on me. So I had changed that through the shadow, through looking at those people, you know, and then looking at myself through them. And I think that my Libra ascendant is always trying to have balance between everybody, you know, like I'm trying to.
I will give you one thing to think about, and I think it will be interesting to see what you say next week. It's something I'm working on. When you encounter and work deeply on the sign Virgo, you have to entertain the question, what does doing what you should mean? And what I've come down to is this. There's a big should and there's a little should. And I really think you need to give a lot of thought to doing what you should. And there's a different kind of should that's a smaller should, because they both imply not being free.
Yeah, well, that's not
Right. But when you follow the smaller should, I don't think it gets in the way as much. Anyhow, I'm going to leave you with that. Think about that. Because what I think doing what you should is being replaced with just this innate sense of doing what's right. It's just because it's right, not because you should. It's the difference between a Virgo and a Pisces. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, let me hear what you got to say on that next week. Moving on. Thank you. Moving on to Sandy, which is our Miss Easter. Yes. How are you, dear?
Okay.
Okay. I can hear you pretty good. Let's get your chart up here. I got a little bit of static on your end, but not too bad. Okay, Sandy, this is your chart. We talked about being an uncommon Libra because the Sun Neptune is so strong. The very powerful Moon opposite Venus Chiron. The bucket pattern to Jupiter. Oh, here I'm not even showing your chart. Karen D, you're not doing your work.
It was there.
I didn't have it on the screen. I got a monitor here. I can see what you see finally.
It's the big
I'm
one.
sorry. Here's the Jupiter. And I've assigned Karen D to be on me whenever I don't have it right. Okay. There's the Venus Moon, which is really strong. And this is bend over, backward, bend over, backward, bend over, backward. Appease the other, appease the other, appease the other. Do what's right, appease the other, appease the other. Does that make any sense?
Sure, yeah.
That's how it was, huh? Used to be. Is that changing now?
Yes. It's been gradual. Well, in the 80s it shifted a lot, and then it's increasing more now too.
Okay, the reason Jupiter is in its fall in Capricorn, Jupiter is in its, any planet in its fall means it's the worst place for it, generally. And also, whatever's opposite is its exaltation. The Jupiter over in Cancer is the best place for Jupiter because it's fruitful. Jupiter Capricorn is a misnomer because Jupiter's all about expanding, Capricorn's all about being careful. Just expand, don't worry about it. Capricorns worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll worry about it. Well, don't worry about it. We'll worry about it. There's this constant battle back and forth between I've taken care of everything, I should be able to invest my money and not worry about it. And the Capricorn just worries, and the Jupiter's all going forward. So this is not even in opposition. This planetary placement itself is in natural conflict. But yet...
And it's squaring my sun.
Okay. Well, it's not widely. But what happens with this, it's still Jupiter, and you're still getting a bucket effect. Everything's down below the horizon, Jupiter's above, so you get additional Jupiter, Jovian energy from this Jupiter just because it's up high. Okay?
Yeah.
Now that Jupiter has been roughed up the past 3 years by Pluto. Pluto's gone all over this. And any planet in the early 9th house is a philosophical planet. So in your last 2 to 3 years, you've had to really go over, I don't care what's been given to me, I don't care what the Bible says, I don't care what the dogma is, I've got to think for myself, what does it mean to be expansive and not too loose? You've had to work out those two extremes. Does that make sense to you?
I'm having a hard time hearing, but Yeah. Trying to balance things is what I think about.
Well, what I'm asking you is you need to look into your life and see if you've had situations where you've said, yeah, go ahead, loosen up your belt, spend the money, have fun, go do it, versus that other voice that's always hold back, draw back, be careful.
Mm-hmm.
You've had to work that out philosophically. Now, does that make sense to you?
I guess it does, yeah.
All right. So what is happening with you? You got these strong Leo planets. You got a very strong moon. Is your Cancerian, are your Cancerian traits very loud, strong?
Yes.
Okay, and they make you
Nurturing.
make you want to kind of hide in a hole?
I sit back a little bit, I would say, more than hiding in a hole. But
So what is the change you feel coming?
I think it has, well, I know it has something to do with my family, and I'm trying to prepare for change. It feels like I've been trying to prepare for change for a while, and
Okay,
it's
you're
getting more intense.
preparing for change with the family. What does that mean?
Well, I don't have any grandchildren yet, but I'd like to.
Do you feel that the family holds you down in any way?
More my feelings about the family and what I should be doing.
Right there. She's saying the word should while I'm circling the Saturn and Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
See that? That's coming from the 4th house.
Yeah.
Well, it's coming from the 5th, but in terms of squaring the ascendant, it's coming from the 4th. And that's the tip of a T-square. So what this means is, we haven't looked at the past life yet, but we're seeing that you've gotten yourself in trouble in the past by being too flexible or too compensating, too counterbalancing. And that Virgo is impressed upon you. If you do that right, you'll be okay. And it has lied to you. It was true for a while, but now it's at the point where the Saturn in Virgo has to go. And guess what's sitting right here? Guess what planet's sitting right there right now?
Neptune. Right.
And as Neptune, which is at 11.5, it's going to move very fast over the next year and a half. As Neptune hits that Saturn, that's your inner Neptune hitting that Saturn. That's going to be very liberating. And you're going to start to say, I needed to keep a tight grip on myself because I kept getting in trouble by being too giving. But now it's time that I can start to let go, and I will naturally do what I should. I will naturally do what I should just by letting go. And this is a very liberating time.
Yeah.
Neptune's coming from the top of the chart, hitting that Saturn. So don't be surprised, since it's a relative midheaven, you may end up working at a nonprofit. You may end up working for kind of giving your time away to the unfortunate. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I might shift to doing more for the unfortunate. I've been more working as a business, and I think it's probably going to shift in that way too.
But it sounds to me like you're right on track. Now, we're going to have to keep an eye on you over the next year as that Neptune works on that Saturn, because no matter what you say, the Saturn will become uncomfortable because the Saturn's used to rules and regulations, and the Neptune, and you look so Neptunian, you're very Piscean. You have that flow about you.
Yeah.
And Neptune is not going to have a hard time hitting that Saturn like other people because you're so used to Neptune being born with sun next to it.
Okay, good.
So we'll help remind you and get you through that, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Let me get on to the list. Okay. We have done Sandy Esch first. Karen disappeared, right? The other Karen disappeared on me. Marta is next. Is she with us? I'm going to unmute everybody. Now let's see here. Mute all. I muted everybody, and now you can unmute yourself. I will stop the. We're hour 15 minutes. We'll say goodbye to our YouTubers, and we'll continue on this one-on-one basis. Hope you've enjoyed it, picked up some things from Unplugged tonight. So us Unpluggers are going to say bye-bye. See you.